Part 14. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 132. She is actually the flower saint. How come the flower saint appears here? Compared with the terrifying strength of easily defeating the skeleton with one blow, the appearance of the blossom saint made everyone even more frightened. That is to say, the woman in black robe who behaved intimately with Nai Chen just now, and even let Nai Chen pinch her shoulders, is the flower saint. What is the relationship between the two? Why are you so close? The female disciples, especially Yun Ziro from Yungsuan sect, were completely stunned. She never imagined that the person she was so jealous of and even looked down upon was actually the Blossom Saint. What on earth did you just do? He actually gets jealous of the Flower Saint. More importantly, the relationship between the Flower Saint and Nai Chen is impossible. Everyone felt a sudden bang in their hearts, but in the face of such a shocking secret, no one dared to tell it personally. The Blossom Saint and Nai Chen, they only dared to keep this matter silently in their hearts. At the same time, the Blossom Saint turned and looked into the distance, her golden hair fluttering in the wind. She was holy and soft, but there was a chilling awe in her eyes. Ignoring the agreement with Tianyun Palace, I wanted to kill Nai Chen. Holy Lord White Bones, is there anything else you want to explain about today's events? As soon as these words came out, the Holy Lord of Bones, who was hiding in the dark, was completely panicked. He never expected that the Flower Saint would appear here in person. What is the relationship between her and Nai Chen? The coercion of the powerful emperor almost shattered the White Bone Saint Lord's heart. Fear filled his heart. He knew clearly that there was no possibility of him fighting against the Blossom Saint Maiden. Escape. The figure of the Bone Holy Lord suddenly flashed out and fled into the distance desperately. The opening of the forbidden area has nothing to do with the saint, but if you hurt Nai Chen, do you still want to run away? The Flower Saint smiled lightly, her eyes suddenly as sharp as a sword. The golden light flashed, and she took a step forward. The void twists and space oscillates. In an instant, the Flower Saint appeared in front of the White Bone Saint. The palm of the 10,000 flowers holy elephant fell down, and the power of the great emperor suppressed it with great force. Holy Lord White Bones roared angrily, I have no enmity with you, why would you take action for a junior? Could it be possible that you and him? Maybe, maybe not, what do you think? However, the Flower Saint Maiden's response was just a coquettish smile, her golden eyes filled with a delicateness as delicate as autumn water. The 10,000 flowers holy elephant pressed down directly, and its terrifying strength was simply beyond the reach of the Bone Holy Lord. The giant elephant, transformed from countless white bones, was easily smashed into pieces. Thousands of flowers poured down, suppressed by a seal, like a giant mountain pressing down. The body of the White Bone Holy Lord fell from the sky, heavily smashing the earth into a huge crater. Thousands of flowers tightly imprisoned his body, and the terrifying residual power of the great emperor made it impossible for him to move. This is a huge difference in strength. They are both the masters of the Holy Land, but the Flower Saintess is powerful enough to easily crush her. But compared to this exciting battle, there was something even more shocking to everyone. Facing the White Bone Holy Lord's question about her relationship with Nai Chen, the Flower Holy Maiden's answer just now. If there were still people who couldn't believe the intimate relationship between the Blossom Saint and Nai Chen before, they had no choice but to believe it now. Although there is no direct answer, there is a real difference between the two. What on earth is going on? The few sect leaders who received the top secret information from Yu Laoyu were far more shocked than the others. They had just learned that Empress Qingyu was entangled with the thread of marriage, and now they actually saw with their own eyes the intimate relationship between Saint Lady Flowers and Nai Chen. What happened? Why is the world so turbulent and people's hearts are so untouched? Empress Qingyu, who wrote on the uselessness of Taoist companions, and Saint Blossoms, who is as holy as a goddess, were inspired by love at the same time. Although I don't know who the Empress is in love with, this is really. If it were half a month ago, no one would have believed that these two powerful emperors who stood at the top of the entire Lanchuan continent would be related to the word love. But now, reality has almost overwhelmed their imagination. At this moment, as the white bone Holy Lord was suppressed effortlessly, Nai Chen completely grabbed the object within the light and pulled it outwards with force. In an instant, the light shone brightly, and the extremely dazzling golden light almost illuminated the entire forbidden area. What Nai Chen was holding in his hand was actually a golden eye. In addition to emitting extremely dazzling light, the golden eyes also exuded a faint sense of oppression. That's Ling Shengtang. Suddenly someone couldn't help shouting. If they hadn't thought about it carefully, they would have forgotten it. According to the records, when the first generation of the Holy Bone Lord achieved the throne of the great emperor thousands of years ago, he relied on his spiritual pupils to suppress the heroes from all directions, stood alone on the top of the continent, and single-handedly created the Holy Land of the Bone. But as the Holy Land of Bones gradually weakened, there were no rumors of spiritual pupils appearing for a long time. Unexpectedly, Ling Shengtang has not disappeared, but has been buried in the deepest part of this forbidden land. It's just that the spiritual eye is after all the most precious thing in the Holy Land of Bones. As an outsider, Nai Chen shouldn't be able to control it even if he gets it. I'm afraid, it will become the wedding dress of the Holy Land of Bones. Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully passing the Senluo Forbidden Land. Detecting the spiritual pupil in the host's hand. The test was successful. The spiritual life pupil has a vital connection with the fourth vein of the Xiangu Saint body and can help the host open the fourth vein of the Xiangu Saint body. After opening, the host will gain the corresponding ability of the spiritual life pupil. Do you plan to open it? Open. Before everyone finished their doubts, in the strong and dazzling light, they clearly saw that Nai Chen took the spiritual life pupil without hesitation and pressed it on his eyes. Boom! A beam of light shot up into the sky, and the extremely strong light was even countless times stronger than before. The spiritual life pupil, which was mysterious and unpredictable and completely incomprehensible to ordinary people, began to merge into Nai Chen's body. What followed was a truly terrifying aura. Countless eyes gathered on Nai Chen in astonishment. The elders and strong men who came from various major sects were all knowledgeable, but this scene was completely unheard of and unseen by them. How could it be possible? Nai Chen had never had any contact with the White Bone Holy Land, so why could he refine the spiritual life pupil? The degree of fit between this spiritual pupil and his was simply terrifying. How did Nai Chen do it? Amidst the exclamation, the golden light in the sky suddenly shrank at this moment, and completely gathered in Nai Chen's eyes. It was like the calm before the storm. After a very short period of silence, when Nai Chen opened his eyes, the endless golden light suddenly became stronger. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 133. Fusion successful. Congratulations to the host for successfully merging the spiritual eye. Congratulations to the host for successfully opening the fourth vein of the Xiangu Saint body, the spiritual eye. Successfully unlocked the abilities of the spiritual eye, prediction, perspective, and pressure. The origin of the spiritual eye is extremely profound, and its abilities are extremely powerful. However, among these three abilities, Nai Chen is most concerned about perspective. Is this thing real or fake? Don't bully a simple and kind-hearted child like me. Nai Chen's left pupil slightly bulged, and suddenly, a golden light flashed in his eyes. He scanned the female disciples around with his left pupil, especially when he reached the Saint of Flowers. Puff! Nai Chen suddenly felt as if a hot stream was surging in his nose, and then blood flowed out of his nose. The perspective ability of the spiritual eye is actually real. The group of female disciples around him were fine. But when he accidentally saw the Saint of Flowers, Nai Chen felt a little bit uncontrollable. I didn't expect that the little girl of the flower saint was not only charming and attractive, but also had a beautiful figure. Especially, she seemed to be even more tolerant than the empress. Who could bear this scene? Nai Chen had a nosebleed? Could it be that he was seriously injured? It's terrible. Nai Chen, who had never been exposed to the inheritance of the Holy Land of Bones, was able to successfully refine the soul-born pupil. However, the backlash of the soul-born pupil should be extremely strong. Even Nai Chen couldn't help but suffer internal injuries. That's right. It seems that even if you can barely refine the soul-born pupil, you must pay a price. Nai Chen suffered such serious internal injuries. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they would be even more unable to bear it. Seeing this, the 5 sisters of Nanling hurried overcome. Brother Nai, your injuries must be very serious. I have a healing pill here. Please take it quickly. Brother Nai, Yinner has a precious herb that is very effective for injuries. Brother Nai, titanium alloy can use its body to heal you. Please lie in my arms. Get out of the way first. Nai Chen's internal injuries seem to be extremely serious. You can't handle it? At this moment, Saint Fanhua stopped the 5 sisters, frowned slightly, and hurried to Nai Chen's side. After all, the spirit life eye is a relic of the great emperor thousands of years ago, and even she doesn't fully understand it. Nai Chen doesn't seem to be injured at the moment, but he has been bleeding from his nose. There may be some extremely difficult problem in this. Saint Fanhua couldn't help but hold Nai Chen in her arms with a little anxiety and tension, trying to find out what's wrong with Nai Chen's body. But she completely ignored Nai Chen's eyes flashing with golden light. Puff. Looking at the magnificent and perfect scene in front of her, Nai Chen's nosebleed became more serious. System, you damned, turn off the spiritual life pupil for me. If this continues, I will bleed to death. Ding, turning off the perspective function. Closed successfully. As the spiritual life pupil was turned off, Nai Chen's nosebleed finally stopped. He took 2 deep breaths, still feeling a little scared. This spiritual life pupil is good, but it is really painful to use. Are you okay? Seeing that Nai Chen's nosebleed finally stopped, the flower saint stopped and continued to transport spiritual energy into his body, gently lifted the golden hair at the temples, and smiled charmingly. Finally recovered, just now I saw you bleeding and staring straight, I thought Qingyu was going to lose her husband. However, the current posture is good, why don't you lie in my arms for a while? Noticing the charming smile at the corner of the flower saint's mouth, Nai Chen realized that he was held in her arms, and the movements and postures were extremely ambiguous. Many sects nearby witnessed this scene, all of them looked embarrassed and stunned. In their minds, Saintess Fanhua has always been a sacred and inviolable noble existence. They never thought that Saintess Fanhua would behave so intimately to Nai Chen. If Saintess Fanhua was not joking, then... Saintess Fanhua, please respect yourself. Nai Chen suddenly felt a chill on his back and quickly pushed Saintess Fanhua away. This embrace was certainly comfortable, but if many sects who witnessed the scene spread the news, his wife would hiss. Thinking of the terrible scene of the empress being jealous, Nai Chen immediately stepped back several steps and kept a distance. This scene stunned everyone instantly. Facing Saintess Fanhua's active embrace, Nai Chen was able to keep his mind calm and steady as a rock. I didn't expect Nai Chen to be such a gentleman who doesn't like beauty. I heard that many people said that although Nai Chen has a terrifying talent, he is an out-and-out old pervert. I didn't expect that those rumors were all false. Nai Chen is so upright. Such a firm heart of Taoism is really enough to be praised by disciples all over the world. I will definitely arrive at Tianyun Palace soon to praise Nai Chen's great move to the Empress. That's right. Who else in the world can face the Saint of Flowers without being confused except Nai Chen? I guess the intimate behavior of the saint just now must have been deliberately testing Nai Chen's mood. As soon as these words came out, many cultivators who were still confused just now suddenly understood. That's right. How could such a noble existence as the Saint of Flowers do such a deliberate and charming behavior just now? It's just that they are superficial and can't see it clearly. The real purpose of the Flower Saint should be to verify whether Nai Chen really has the character as rumored, but it's just a test for him. For a while, many cheers rang out one after another. Some admired the greatness of the Flower Saint, and some marveled at Nai Chen's strong character. There were more cheers from the many female disciples. If the Flower Saint didn't make a move, it would prove that she and senior brother Nai still had a chance. After all, if even the Flower Saint really had a crush on Nai Chen, then they really had no ability to compete. Now it seems that although there are many competitors who like Nai Chen, there is still no one who can make the final decision and conquer senior brother Nai. After all, how difficult is it to completely defeat the many Tianjiao female disciples in the world who admire Nai Chen? Who can do this? I guess only the Empress can do it, but that is absolutely impossible. It's too much. I am a saint, but I was abandoned so cruelly. After being pushed away mercilessly by Nai Chen, the Saint of Flowers suddenly looked a little aggrieved and pitiful. Nai Chen smiled. It doesn't matter, as compensation, I can feed the saint with the Empress more dog food after we go back. You. Recalling the sweet scene, the Saint of Flowers has never felt so speechless. These two people who only know how to show off their love every day, are they really going too far? The excessiveness is still to come. Nai Chen carefully put away the looping grass. But in a flash, there was a hint of awe in his eyes. Because when he opened the spiritual pupil just now, he saw another scene in the forbidden area. I am afraid that is the real purpose of the White Bone Saint Lord's willingness to open the forbidden area. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 134. That breath, it can't be fake. Even though it was only sensed at the moment of opening the spirit life pupil, Nai Chen was very aware of it. As if it came from the deepest abyss, that extremely deep breath was far better than the holy land of bones, and it seemed to be hidden with all his strength. Spirit life pupil, sense. A strong light was reflected from Nai Chen's left pupil, and its direction went straight into the deepest part of the flowing Golden River. There were countless formations in the Golden River, trying to hide the deepest things. The power of the spirit life pupil was extremely strong, but in front of these ancient formations, it was difficult to move forward. Break it for me. Nai Chen gritted his teeth and merged the endless extremely yin energy into the light of the spirit life pupil. For some reason, the extremely yin energy seemed to have a strange connection with the Senluo Forbidden Land. And the seemingly solid Golden River was unable to resist this strange and cold extremely yin energy. Bang! The formation that blocked Nai Chen's vision was suddenly broken through, and layer after layer of barriers were shattered. Then, a completely different scene appeared in front of him. Nai Chen clearly saw that the scenery under this Golden River was completely different from the human world. It was another world. The sky was all dark green, without sunlight and vegetation. There was only an abyss-like canyon, endless, and it was impossible to know what was hidden in it. The dark green in the sky kept spinning, and the breath floating there was extremely cold. It seemed to solidify everything and freeze time. As Nai Chen's eyes were cast into it, suddenly, countless souls and ghosts emerged from the abyss. The cold wind was howling, as if there were millions of evil spirits shouting together. Nai Chen could see clearly then. At the corner of the cliff, a thin soul was floating. It was a woman's soul. Even though her body was hollow and half floating in the air, the temperament she exuded was completely different from that of ordinary ghosts. Light, beautiful, and even, a hint of inviolable majesty. She wore a gorgeous crown on her head, and the oppressive feeling she exuded made her unique. However, thousands of ghosts had completely surrounded this soul, as if they wanted to bite her to pieces and swallow her into their stomachs with all their strength. What exactly is this scene? Nai-Chen frowned slightly, revealing a hint of confusion. Even though he had never seen such a scene, he could clearly feel that it seemed to be a completely different world from the other side of the Golden River. Ding, system prompts, this is the reincarnation underworld. The woman on the cliff is called Netherworld, the princess who has guarded the underworld for 10,000 years. Issue important reminder, the host can establish a relationship with it with a sword. Underworld, Netherworld. These names were names Nai-Chen had never heard of. However, the system's reminder made him make a decision quickly. The White-Bone Saint Lord went to great lengths and even opened the forbidden area to various sects, just for the strange scenery hidden under this golden river. In this case, I will accept this fate for him. Hanging above the golden river, Nai-Chen took out the Nirvana Phoenix sword. As if the divine phoenix cried, the raging flames followed. The infinite flames in the sword seemed to be able to engulf the world and sweep across the vast universe. This is, the Nirvana Phoenix sword. Isn't the Nirvana Phoenix sword the natal sword of Emperor Honghui? Could it be that after the Empress killed Emperor Honghui, she gave it to Nai-Chen? The fire phoenix cries, swallowing the sun and the moon. Born in Nirvana, thousands of flames fall. This is actually the Nirvana Phoenix sword. It was not just the Nirvana Phoenix sword that shocked everyone. As Nai-Chen pulled out the sword, endless flames rose to the sky, and the sacred phoenix cry resounded throughout the forbidden area. Above is the forbidden sky, and underfoot is the underworld of reincarnation. Holding this sword, Nai-Chen seemed like a god descending to the world, with golden light in his left pupil and blazing fire on both arms. With every breath, he followed the truth of the universe. The palm holding the sword seemed to be able to grasp the sun, moon, and stars. Countless souls wailed and cried as they rushed towards the netherworld on the edge of the cliff. That thin figure seemed to be swallowed up at any time. At this moment, Nai-Chen swung his sword and slashed. One sword. It opened when it met the mountain and broke when it met the water. The sky and the sky were all broken. The sky was full of golden light and blazing fire, and the sacred phoenix sounded in the sky. Thousands of souls were annihilated at this moment. The golden flames cut through countless miles. Countless evil ghosts and souls wailed and perished in the flames. The golden flames spread for thousands of miles, completely blocking the other side of the cliff. No ghost can cross this sword, and no person can be cut. With just one sword, thousands of souls cannot move forward. The netherworld seemed to be split in two. Looking at the ghosts engulfed by the flames, they instantly turned into ashes and melted. Even though the person they longed for was on the other side of the flames, countless evil ghosts dared not move forward. This scene completely shocked everyone. Although they could not see the scene in the netherworld clearly, they clearly felt the power of Nai-Chen's sword. Even though Nirvana Phoenix is a heavenly magic weapon, it can exert its power to such a terrifying level. Is this really the strength that Xianyuan realm can exert? In that sword, it even seemed to contain the power of the Emperor, which made people feel infinite awe. Until this moment, many sects have not recovered from the shock brought by the sword. Even the Saint of Flowers, who had already stepped into the realm of transformation, looked at Nai-Chen in astonishment, unable to hide the shock in her heart. The power of the sword was so great that even she could not easily strike it. How did Nai-Chen do it? However, no one could see it. Under the Golden River. In the underworld of reincarnation, the soul of the woman on the cliff raised her head, and a faint green light shone on her crown. Facing Nai-Chen, she nodded slightly, and a smile seemed to rise at the corner of her mouth. As if to thank him, but also as if to respond. The flames burned violently, and then the scene of the underworld of reincarnation began to gradually fade, and seemed to become a little chaotic. The scene in the underworld and the netherworld on the cliff also slowly faded and disappeared. However, an image suddenly appeared in Nai-Chen's mind. By the long pale blue river, a cute little girl was barefoot, looking a little depressed and lowering her head. Sitting next to her was Yuming, who had been smiling and silent. She looked at the little girl with a bit of tenderness in her eyes. This scene was sad, but also as harmonious and beautiful as the setting sun. But, looking at this little girl, Nai-Chen felt that she looked familiar. Suddenly, Nai-Chen's pupils shrank slightly, and he seemed a little unbelievable. The cute little girl who was shaking her little feet, although a little melancholy, but also a bit playful, was actually Chu Qingyu when she was a child. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 135. The scene that appeared in his mind slowly dissipated, and the underworld of reincarnation completely disappeared under the Golden River. Nai-Chen was still thoughtful. The scene that came to mind just now seemed to indeed exist, that is to say, the Empress really had some contact with the princess of the underworld. But he didn't know the cause and effect. However, I didn't expect that Empress Qingyu actually had a youthful period when she was walking by the river with her bare feet. Nai-Chen smiled slightly and couldn't help but sigh. The flames on the Nirvana sword gradually extinguished, and the light released by the spiritual pupils in Nai-Chen's eyes slowly disappeared. But the monks in the forbidden area who had witnessed the scene just now were unable to recover from their shock. Not only the weak disciples, but also the elders from the major sects who came along were all shocked. Nai-Chen's true form of enlightenment is certainly awe-inspiring, and some even assert that he can achieve the status of emperor within 100 years. But before that, many sects only regarded Nai-Chen as a rapidly growing seedling. But no one had ever thought that Nai-Chen's strength would have reached such a terrifying level even before the 100-year period came. The sight of stepping on the road of bones shocked them, but what even made many strong men who had been hiding in the sect for many years find it unbelievable was the sword that Nai-Chen had just struck. No one knew where the sword was going, but they clearly felt a terrifying sense of oppression from the sword. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they might even suspect that the sword was struck by a powerful man who could claim the title of emperor. As Nai-Chen walked out of the Golden River step by step, there was silence everywhere. The major sects who came all stood there silently, as if they regarded Nai-Chen as the venerable sect leader of their own sect, showing great respect. You. How is that possible? Not only did you see there, but you actually formed a destiny with the princess. The Bone Holy Lord, who was imprisoned on the earth, suddenly looked at Nai-Chen in shock, his eyes filled with disbelief. The eyes were blood red and crazy, and they couldn't accept it. What are you talking about? The flower saint girl frowned slightly. Even without the help of Ling Shengtang, her strength in the realm of the great emperor made her seem to feel something at that moment. However, that aura was fleeting and strange, and even she couldn't capture it at all. It seems that you already knew something when you summoned all the major sects to the Senluo Forbidden Land. In this case, please tell me everything honestly. Nai-Chen took one step forward and walked towards the White Bone Holy Lord. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and suddenly, an awe-inspiring sense of oppression came over him. You think I would tell you that even if this Holy Master dies? Before Holy Lord Whitebones could finish speaking, he suddenly noticed that Nai-Chen's eyes were still cold, as if he didn't take his words into consideration at all. Is it possible? Asshole, how can you interfere in the princess affairs? Suddenly, the Bone Holy Lord let out a hysterical roar. Immediately afterwards, the cold, majestic and chaotic spiritual energy quickly gathered in his body, and violently trembled. The vision suddenly arose, and the remaining half of the skin of the white bone Holy Lord began to tear and break. Those scarlet eyes were filled with crazy bloodshot eyes. No, he wants to self-destruct his spirit body. This scene was unexpected even by the flower saint. As the Lord of the Holy Land, Holy Lord White Bones carries countless burdens on his shoulders. He has longed to be the great emperor for many years and is only one step away. No one could have imagined that Holy Bone Lord would actually be willing to end his own life. Holy Lord. Suddenly, the sacred elephant of 10,000 flowers suddenly appeared. Nai Chen, the flower saint, and many monks from the White Bone Holy Land all rushed to the White Bone Holy Lord, trying to stop his self-destruction. However, Holy Bone Lord's determination seems to be more decisive than anyone imagined. Even though he broke through the void and appeared in front of him in an instant, it was already too late for the palm of the Blossom Saint to wave. Boom! An extremely powerful wave suddenly exploded and spread. In the sky full of firelight and smoke, half of the Bone Holy Lord's body was broken into pieces, and half of it was made of flesh and blood. Boom! During the second loud noise, he even completely exploded his soul to pieces. The body and soul were completely dissolved at this moment. Half of the body of the Bone Holy Lord collapsed, and the remaining body was as dry as firewood, without any vitality and aura. Even the soul that was extremely close to the powerful emperor was shattered by the explosion. Completely annihilated and dissipated in mid-air. The Lord of the Holy Land actually used self-destruction to shatter and destroy his entire soul. How is it possible? Why would Holy Lord White Bones do such a thing? This, even if he has an agenda, as the Lord of a Holy Land, he will never endanger his life. Who is the White Bone Holy Lord? Mount Imei, Yongsuanmen, Liuguang Temple, Jianzhong Mountain. Many sects who witnessed the scene looked at the miserable scene in front of them in great shock. The smoke and dust dispersed, and floating in the sky was the remnant soul of the Holy Lord who had almost half-stepped into the cauldron realm. Holy Lord, Holy Lord. The monks and disciples of the Holy Land of Bones all burst into tears, unable to accept the facts before them. In their eyes, Holy Lord White Bones is such a great being. Even though he has not yet ascended to the throne of the great emperor, the strength of the White Bone Holy Lord has already been rising step by step towards that terrifying state. No one could have imagined that the Holy Lord would suddenly blow himself up at this moment. If they weren't facing the Flower Saint and Nai Chen who was protected by Tianyun Palace. Anyone who forces the Holy Lord to death will be cut into pieces. Soul-searching technique. Nai Chen didn't expect that things would evolve to this extent, so he immediately used the soul-searching technique to absorb the remaining souls in the sky. However, because the soul has been completely exploded, the memories that can be found in these remaining souls are only extremely blurry scenes. And those secrets that seem to be most cherished by the Bone Holy Lord are all about the scenes in the underworld of reincarnation. Under the dark green and cold sky, the soul of a woman wearing a crown stood quietly near the cliff. This scene was exactly the same as what Nai Chen saw in the underworld of reincarnation. As expected, it seems that I got it right with that sword strike. Nai Chen frowned slightly and murmured. Do you know what the White Bone Holy Lord is trying to cover up? At this moment, the Flower Saint girl frowned slightly and came close to Nai Chen. I roughly know part of it, although I don't know exactly what he's doing. But I'm afraid, it has something to do with the place. Where? Reincarnation in the underworld. As soon as these words came out, even the Blossom Saint Maiden showed a hint of astonishment on her face. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 136. Does the saint know about reincarnation in the underworld? Nai Chen asked curiously after noticing the slightly shocked look on the Flower Saint Maiden's face. 9 Netherworld Palace, thousands of souls. I do know part of the things about the underworld. However, these things are too difficult to explain clearly, so I will tell you the details later. There is a bit of seriousness in the look of the flower saint goddess. Then for the Holy Land of Bones, what should be done next? Nai-Chen looked around the forbidden area and asked. I'll let you do whatever you want from now on. Anyway, you have Empress King Yu and me to rely on at the same time. Are you still afraid of them? The Blossom Saint smiled slightly, as if she had completely forgotten about the thought of reincarnation in the underworld. Nai-Chen smiled and said, I do have the Empress as my thigh, but I don't remember when I hugged the Saint's thigh. How about you come and give me a hug? Even though it's not as strong as King Yu's, she's not as strong as King Yu. But maybe each has its own charm. The Saintess of Flowers has a soft and lovely voice, and her every frown and smile seems to be full of charm. Nai-Chen glanced at the monks around him and spread his hands helplessly. Let's forget it. Let's wait until I go back and kneel on the washboard. Hey, the slave family is waiting for you. Upon hearing these words, the flower saint maiden's eyes flashed, and a subtle smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Nai-Chen did not respond, but slowly floated directly above the golden river, his cold and majestic eyes sweeping across the earth. Huh! The flame suddenly rose up, emitting a blazing fire that seemed to be enough to swallow up half of the sky on the Nirvana sword. It is even more like a fire phoenix singing in the sky, which is sacred and majestic. Thousands of monks in the Holy Land of Bones looked up at the sky, but they did not dare to look into Nai-Chen's cold eyes. It was this person who forced the Holy Lord to death. But the Holy Lord White Bones is dead, and from today onwards, Holy Bones Holy Lord will surrender to Empress King Yu. The Holy Land is opened for Tianyun Palace at all times, and thousands of monks in the Holy Land bow their heads to the Empress. Is there anyone who refuses to follow this matter? Nai-Chen's voice spread throughout the Bone Holy Land. Accompanied by the sacred phoenix, the sky-wide fire was enough to illuminate half of the sky, making Nai-Chen's figure look like a god who had descended from the world. This voice was actually filled with awe-inspiring and inviolable majesty. At this moment, looking at Nai-Chen hanging above the golden river, everyone in the Holy Land suddenly felt that they were not facing a Xianyuan realm monk at all, but a real emperor. There are rumors and prophecies that Nai-Chen is carrying the true body of enlightenment, and Tianyun Palace will have a powerful emperor within 100 years. But the current scene not only convinced them of this absurd-sounding prophecy. It is even suspected that the position of the great emperor, which everyone regards as unattainable, seems to be just a peak that Nai-Chen can climb at will. The majestic power in this voice made people dare not disobey at all. Coupled with the flower saint standing next to Nai-Chen, the entire Bone Holy Land was silent for a while. Even though the Holy Master was forced to blow up his soul, no one dared to stand up. Ding, shocked the entire Bone Forbidden Land, and shocked the strong men of all major sects. Obtain reward, the power of the Emperor *1. The system sounded in time. The power of the Emperor. Nai-Chen did not hesitate to use it. Suddenly, a huge aura burst out from Nai-Chen. Holy Land of Bones, are you willing to surrender to the Empress and Tianyun Palace? Like the haze that covered the clear sky thousands of miles away, these words actually exuded a majestic and terrifying aura, instantly permeating the entire Holy Land. In an instant, it felt like a huge mountain was pressing down, and everyone felt their hearts sinking. Especially the people in the Holy Land of Bones, facing this huge and terrifying majesty, their bodies shook and trembled, as if they wanted to kneel down and worship. The terrifying sense of oppression made them have no intention of resisting at all, and they just wanted to break free from this boundless fear. The Holy Land of Bones is willing to surrender. I don't know who was the first to kneel down, but many disciples gritted their teeth and still wanted to support. But suddenly he realized that even the Supreme Elder couldn't bear the suffocating pressure and bent his back, even kneeling on one knee. Holy Land of Bones, willing to surrender. We are willing to surrender to the Empress and Tianyun Palace. One after another, figures knelt down on one knee, trembling slightly and kneeling towards the figure in the air. Others tried to resist, but the overwhelming sense of oppression and the surrender they witnessed from the elders and those around them completely shattered their self-esteem. One after another, the figures nodded and knelt, their stubborn hearts completely surrendered. Facing Nai-Chen, who was suspended in the air, everyone in the White Bone Holy Land knelt down on one knee. Everyone expressed their submission. Okay, in that case, from now on, the Holy Land of Bones will be in charge of the Empress. Are there any dissatisfactions among the major sects here? The majestic voice of the Flower Saint came out, but no one dared to disobey her. The Holy Land of Bones, which had existed for tens of thousands of years, was completely surrendered at this moment. Compared to this, what is even more amazing and incredible to everyone is, they clearly felt the oppressive feeling that was comparable to the power of the great emperor just now. Is that really the pressure emanating from Nai-Chen? Nai-Chen was puzzled as to how he could suddenly experience such a terrifying feeling of oppression. That feeling was extremely real, but no one could figure it out. All the people in the Holy Land of Bones submitted, and all the major sects were respectful and solemn. Nai-Chen held the Nirvana Phoenix sword in the sky, and this scene was so daunting that people couldn't help but look at it. But at this moment, the figure of Shen Kongshuang floated in the distance. Saint Envoy Kongshuang? Where did you go just now? Nai-Chen then recalled that Shen Kongshuang seemed to have disappeared for a while. Shen Kongshuang replied, "The Empress summoned me back to Tianyuan Palace just now." Tianyuan Palace? Why did the Empress ask you to go back to Tianyuan Palace? The Empress summoned me back just to ask me to come and ask you and Saint Lady Fanhua to go back to Tianyuan Palace together. Speaking of Saint Lady Fanhua, Shen Kongshuang's voice deliberately emphasized a little. Saint Lady Fanhua? Wait, could it be? Nai-Chen suddenly felt a bang in his head. Shen Kongshuang scratched his head, a little confused. I don't know the details, but the Empress seemed to say that she wanted to ask about the relationship between you and the saint in the forbidden area. It seems that King Yu is jealous. Hearing this, the Saint of Flowers smiled coquettishly. How dare you say that? Aren't you afraid that the Empress will punish you as well? Nai-Chen glared at her helplessly. Although his body was not crooked, how could his wife be so well informed? In an instant, the originally delicate and moving Saint of Flowers became timid. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 137. Many sects organized their disciples to slowly withdraw from the forbidden area. After receiving instructions from the Flower Saint, Shen Kongshuang led Tianyuan Palace to come and quickly took control of the entire White Bone Holy Land. I don't know whether it was out of fear of Tianyuan Palace or the Flower Saint here, but no one dared to resist in the Holy Land of Bones, which has a 10,000-year inheritance, and completely surrendered. Such a huge event completely shocked many sects who saw the facts with their own eyes. Nai-Chen left the forbidden area, but as soon as he walked out, he saw several disciples kneeling on the ground crying bitterly beside the entrance of the forbidden area. Zongjiu, Zongjiu, wake up. Sect Master Yu, please take this elixir quickly. It may help your injury. Nai-Chen was not interested at first, but looking from a distance, he suddenly felt that the old man lying slumped on the ground seemed very familiar to him. Walking forward curiously, he asked the disciple who was crying most sadly. What happened to this old sect master? Senior brother Nai. Seeing Nai-Chen, the disciple was overjoyed at first, but soon his heart became even more sad. Senior brother Nai, lying on the ground is our sect's highly respected sect leader Yu. Although sect master Yu is not good at fighting, he is proficient in the art of marriage and is deeply respected by many sects. But today, Our sect leader entered the forbidden area alone, but he was injured by someone unknown. His body was bruised and swollen, and all the magic weapons he carried had been looted. I'm afraid, someone attacked sect leader Yu in order to take away his treasure. What? Nai Chen has never had a great sense of justice. But hearing such words, even he couldn't help but feel a little indignant. Is this still something a human can do? Nai Chen cursed loudly and was extremely angry. To actually brutally beat such a kind old man in a forbidden area just for some magic weapons. I really can't think of what kind of beast could do such a thing. This kind of person is simply worse than a beast. Shameless, how could there be such a shameless person in this world? Yes, Senior Brother Nai is right. Senior Brother Nai, I never thought you could be so righteous. After I go back, I will definitely draw a portrait of you and frame it. Seeing Nai Chen's righteous appearance, many of the disciples next to Mr. Yu were deeply moved and were completely infected by Nai Chen's justice. It doesn't matter, Nai Chen, am such a decent person. Nai Chen waved his hand and seemed not to care about the compliments around him. He knelt down and said, "Your sect leader did suffer from serious flesh injuries, but I happen to have some excellent treatment methods here, so I can try to revive him. Brother Nai, you are simply the kindest person in the world." In an instant, all the disciples around Mr. Yu were so moved that they burst into tears. It was the first time we met, but Nai Chen was able to lend such a helping hand to a complete stranger. How could anyone in the entire world, except Nai Chen, do such a kind act? Everyone found a way out and were moved to tears. Nai Chen walked to Mr. Yu. But at this moment, Mr. Yu, who had been unconscious all this time, suddenly coughed twice, and then began to breathe heavily and rapidly. It hurts so much. Old Yu trembled and opened his mouth. Sect Master Yu is awake. Sect Master is really awake. In an instant, the disciples beside Mr. Yu exclaimed at the same time. They fed Mr. Yu a lot of healing elixirs here, and tried all kinds of methods. Unexpectedly, Mr. Yu would wake up at this moment. Sect Master, are you feeling better? Do you need to take some more painkillers? Immediately, a disciple came forward and slowly helped Mr. Yu up. Well, give me 2 painkillers. After taking the elixir, Mr. Yu, who was weak and in pain, finally slowly opened his eyes. You actually treated me so cruelly, that boy. Since he dares to do this, don't blame me. Mr. Yu's voice was weak and trembling, and he was halfway through speaking, but his turbid yellow eyes suddenly felt a familiar figure standing in front of him. The blurry figure gradually became clear in his eyes. When he saw it clearly, Mr. Yu instantly took a breath. The person standing in front of him was none other than Nai Chen, who beat him up in the forbidden area and took away all the magic pills from him. In an instant, the fear of being chased and beaten by Nai Chen once again swept through Mr. Yu's heart. His Taoist heart, which was not strong to begin with, even seemed to have a broken sound. Over the years, when had Mr. Yu suffered such humiliation, and when had he been beaten so violently? You. Old Yu pointed his finger at Nai Chen, his heart completely engulfed by boundless fear. Coolness emerged, Taoist heart collapsed. Yu Lao couldn't take a breath, pointed at Nai Chen, his eyes turned white. He actually fainted from convulsions. Zongju Yu. Sect Master Yu, what's wrong with you? The disciples around Mr. Yu were shocked and rushed forward. But Mr. Yu had already foamed at the mouth and fainted completely. Sect Master, why did you faint again? All the disciples burst into tears. Only Nai Chen suddenly realized an extremely serious problem. Damn it, how come this sect leader Yu is exactly the same as the old man I beat up in the secret realm and stole the elixir? Therefore, the one who beat him was not someone else, it turned out to be himself. My condolences. You don't have to worry. Master, you only suffered some minor flesh wounds. It should be healed in no time. Nai Chen coughed twice in embarrassment and quietly left the crowd. On the side, he suddenly noticed a few trembling eyes. These eyes came from Master Fenwen, and the masters of Jingkai Mountain and Jianzhou Mountain. What's the matter? Is there any problem? Nai Chen glanced at the three people. Nothing, nothing, we are all friends of old Yu, I just want to say. Good fight, Nai Chen. Ha ha ha, Nai Chen, don't worry. Although old Yu seemed to have suffered some flesh wounds, at his age, a beating is just like relaxing the muscles and promoting blood circulation, there is no problem. Instantly, the three people laughed at the same time. Haha, it seems that the three masters are quite discerning. Nai Chen also laughed together as if they were in cahoots with each other. Ha ha ha, I am so lucky to meet a promising person like Nai Chen. Ha ha ha, I am so lucky to meet a few sect masters who know the general situation. For a moment, 4 hysterical laughs echoed near the forbidden area, scaring all the disciples around. If they didn't all know Nai Chen and these sect masters, they almost thought that there were demon cultivators sneaking in. But after the laughter, Nai Chen's eyes suddenly changed, with a subtle smile on his lips. However, since the 3 sect masters are all acquainted with old Yu, then presumably, they should all have old Yu's most cherished treasure, the ring-shaped tonic grass, right? Nai Chen, what do you mean? What do you think? Nai Chen pressed his fists and made a bang, and walked forward step by step. P.S. The Queen's candy is about to arrive at the battlefield. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 138. With Shen Kongshuang guarding this place, no one in the Holy Land of Bones dared to disobey him. Amidst the cries of the old disciple Yu, Nai Chen sat on Ao Ian's dragon and prepared to return to Tianyun Palace. But suddenly, the flower saint came forward and sat close behind Nai Chen. Saint, do you want to? Nai Chen took a step back. Didn't King Yu say that I want you to go with me? I don't have a mount. Could it be that you can't bear to see me fly away alone? The Saint of Flowers leaned tenderly and pitifully against Nai Chen's back, blinking her eyes deliberately with a pitiful expression. Are you sure the Empress won't kill you when she sees you sitting with me like this? Ahem, this. The Blossom Saint showed a hint of fear, but soon revealed a charming smile. It doesn't matter. If I could die with you and fly together, I wouldn't feel any regret. Damn it, Saintess will actually sit with senior brother Nai. How could the two of them be so close? Didn't someone say just now that the saint in the forbidden area was just testing Nai Chen? Could it be that the two of them? What on earth is going on? At the same time, some people have begun to witness this intimate scene. If this continues, I'm afraid it won't be long before rumors will spread all over the sky. Nai Chen was cruel and had no choice but to signal Aolan to leave at full speed. With a majestic dragon roar, Aolan rose into the air. Everyone looked up at the sky and saw Nai Chen walking on top of the majestic golden-scaled dragon body. Behind him, the golden hair was fluttering in the wind, and the flower saint was leaning on it gently with a smile on her face. Her smile was sweet, and she seemed to be enjoying herself very much. Although only dozens of disciples around Mr. Yu saw the scene with their own eyes. But everyone was stunned and completely stunned. Arriving at Tianyun Palace and falling to the ground, Nai Chen immediately left the Blossom Saint at a distance. Isn't it too much to be so distant from me? After all, I am just a weak woman. The Flower Saint came forward pitifully. You call the realm of the great emperor weak. The most important thing is. After looking in the direction of Tianyun Palace, Nai Chen coughed lightly. Ahem, it seems so. The Blossom Saint immediately seemed a little apprehensive. With his shoulders lowered, even his walking looked very regular. Approaching Tianyun Palace, both of them slowed down a lot. Although she was full of confidence just now, the flower saint is obviously a little timid at this moment. Otherwise, you should go in by yourself. Maybe King Yu sent the wrong message and actually didn't intend to find me. Nai Chen looked at her helplessly. If you don't go, the Empress might go to the Holy Land of Flowers to look for you with a knife in half an hour. Well, I'd better go then. Hearing these words, the Blossom Saint couldn't help but feel frightened, and quickly followed Nai Chen obediently. Walk into Tianyun Palace. The cold air was faint and misty, and on the high throne sat the graceful figure of Chu Qingyu. The light blue thin long skirt floats softly on the seat, and the jade legs as white and soft as lotus roots rest lightly together, like jade carved from pink. What a long seat, oh no, what a white chair. Nai Chen suddenly felt a little thirsty in his throat. Nai Chen, I heard that you had a very close contact with the flower saint in the forbidden area. But at this moment, Chu Qingyu smiled softly. The laughter sounded as sweet as gurgling water, but it sent a chill down Nai Chen's back. The flower saint on the side suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, with a proud smile on her face. It seems that Qingyu plans to deal with Nai Chen, so she should be fine. Nai Chen hurriedly defended. Honey, believe me, I am upright. This time I really refused righteously and didn't do anything. I know. Chu Qingyu nodded quickly. I got the news a long time ago. I heard that in the forbidden area, the Blossom Saint intends to test you, and she will even use her beauty to seduce you. But you were completely unmoved and refused righteously? Upon hearing these words, Nai Chen and the flower saint were stunned for a moment. Honey, what do you mean? Nai Chen looked around and suddenly noticed that the ice and snow on Chu Qingyu's cheeks melted, the corners of her mouth could not help but raise slightly, and even her fair legs seemed to be slightly raised in excitement. Humph, you did well. I will forgive you for what happened in the forbidden area. This hum with a hint of smile is cuter than ever. As expected of my wife, you are really wise and discerning. Nai Chen couldn't help but give a thumbs up in praise. However, you dare to have evil thoughts towards Nai Chen behind my back. Do you want to explain it to me, little Huahua? Chu Qingyu looked at the flower saint, and the smile on her lips was a bit chilling and weird. The Blossom Saint suddenly felt a chill coming from her back. This scene was something she didn't expect at all. No, this is wrong. The Blossom Saint suddenly felt that she had been treated unfairly. Qingyu, you are partial. It's obvious that Nai Chen was also at fault, so you can't just punish me. Holy girl, I'm afraid you've never heard of what it means to be together as a husband and wife. My wife is so kind, how could she have the heart to do something to me? Nai Chen suddenly mocked from the side. Chu Qingyu smiled lightly, but did not speak, but walked towards the Saint of Flowers step by step. The Saint of Flowers was completely stunned, as if she felt the great malice from this world. These two people not only showed their affection and love crazily, but also their hearts seemed to be strung on a line. This is clearly differential treatment. She still remembered that 200 years ago, Chu Qingyu was still the little girl who kept the theory of the uselessness of Taoist companions in her hand all day long and looked down on all men in the world. At that time, Chu Qingyu didn't even want to look at any man more. She also still remembered that 100 years ago, a very powerful saint emperor confessed to Chu Qingyu. But he was ruthlessly rejected by Chu Qingyu, so that his heart of Taoism collapsed and he had no chance to practice. But now, Chu Qingyu has changed, completely changed. Not only did she show her affection and love crazily, she even became an out-and-out husband-protecting demon. Qingyu, we have been friends for hundreds of years. Qingyu, Taoist companions are all external things, you must not be blinded by them. Qingyu, let me go, please. The hall was filled with the repeated pleadings of the Saint of Flowers. But these pleas did not stop Chu Qingyu from coming step by step. Soon, the graceful body of the Saint of Flowers was dragged behind the barrier. As Chu Qingyu raised her hands and fell, she pleaded and cried continuously. And outside this barrier, Nai Chen quietly opened the perspective of the spiritual life eye. Suddenly, the erotic scene behind the barrier was visible. Nosebleed, flowing down. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 139. The ability of this spiritual pupil is good, but the body is a bit useless. After returning to the room, Nai Chen took several pills of Huan de Tong Cao in succession, and finally made up for his weak body due to nosebleeds. The flower saint has been dragged to the palace by the Empress to continue cleaning up. The current scene is probably even worse than before. For a moment, Nai Chen even began to doubt. Could it be that this flowery saint who has been his wife's best friend for hundreds of years is not just greedy for her body, but is actually plotting against his wife? After all, it's hard to guard against a best friend. It seems that I still have to be more careful in the future. Ding, the host successfully caused the Whitebone Holy Lord to self-destruct, and the Holy Land surrendered. And with a sword, he forged a bond with the Princess of the Underworld. System reward, a luxury gift package. After waiting for so long, the system finally released the rewards. Nai Chen opened the luxurious gift package without hesitation. Skill point balance reaches 150 skill points. Choose any Earth level magic weapon *1. Get the Enlightenment Real Body panel. Activate the ability of spiritual pupils, acupuncture points. Nai Chen carefully looked at the system rewards this time. In addition to the skill points that are already rich and oily. Enlightenment Real Body panel. Following Nai Chen's confusion, a pale golden panel suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. The real power of enlightenment is that it can understand all things and turn things into the goal of understanding. But at the same time, the real body of enlightenment also has a major flaw. If you want to understand things, you not only need a strong understanding, but also an opportunity, chance, and luck. Not everything can be understood, nor can everything understood be useful. For example, the way of narcissism that Xu Xian understood at the beginning is of no use except for narcissism. Understanding this kind of Tao is not only time-consuming and labor-intensive, but what you finally understand may actually be harmful rather than beneficial. However, this panel is simply an artifact of the true form of enlightenment. The panel records the ability to awaken by understanding various things, and even marks the success rate. The service is simply considerate. Nai Chen turned on the panel function and cast his gaze on the table. Immediately, the panel analyzed the data. Target, firewood. Contains spiritual energy, none. Comprehensive ability, open a mountain with one axe. Method of understanding, keep striking with an axe until you understand. Comprehension success rate, 2%. The success rate seems a bit low. Nai Chen shook his head, not intending to realize that the gain was not worth the loss. As soon as he walked out of the room, a figure suddenly ran towards him. Brother Nai, why have you been gone for so long? Ling misses you so much. When she heard that senior brother Nai set foot on the extremely dangerous bone road in the Holy Land, Ling was worried to death. Fortunately, senior brother Nai returned safely. In that case, it was K Ruling who ran up to Nai Chen. At this moment, her beautiful eyes were full of emotion, as if autumn water was surging in her eyes, and her heart was even more excited. She raised her head shyly and excitedly, staring closely at Nai Chen with her shining eyes. Senior brother Nai, Ling knows your thoughts. The punch you gave Ling last time was so comfortable. Even now, Ling is still thinking about it. I didn't even want to take a shower to wash the place where brother Nai punched me. So, senior brother Nai, please stop being shy this time and kiss Ling. Ling is willing to dedicate himself to senior brother Nai, even if it means sacrificing the reserve of a girl. What? K. Ruling pouted her little mouth and rushed forward again. Target, Tianyun Palace disciple K. Ruling. Cultivation, peak of UN building realm. Ability that can be comprehended, hammer away the flower crazy fist, that is, one punch can make the opponent no longer crazy. Method of understanding, punching. Comprehension success rate, 99%. Facing K. Ruling, who was about to get close to him, Nai Chen punched him without hesitation. Bang! With one punch, K. Ruling's figure was gently knocked into the air. System improvement, comprehension failure. There is a 99% chance of realizing failure. Nai Chen was confused. Senior brother Nai, although it is not as good as a kiss, this punch from senior brother Nai is so gentle. At the same time, K. Ruling came running again. Whoosh, bang. System improvement, comprehension failure. Bang. System improvement, comprehension failure. Senior brother Nai, hee, I'm here again. However, after several consecutive punches, Nai Chen failed to comprehend the tumbling flower chi fist at all. Are you sure about the 99% chance? Nai Chen was a little confused. Ding, normally speaking, the chance of understanding this fist is indeed very high. However, K. Ruling's infatuation with the host seems to be so deep that the host is completely unable to shake it, which greatly reduces the possibility of successful realization. Nai Chen. A few days ago, he was so powerful that he even chased and killed the powerful emperor alone, but suddenly he realized that he seemed to have no way to deal with K. Ruling. Unexpectedly, this seemingly harmless little junior sister is actually his nemesis. Senior brother Nai, Linger is here again. Senior brother Nai feels so comfortable, okay. Explosive hammer dog head punch. Finally, Nai Chen couldn't bear it anymore. After a punch, K. Ruling turned into a bright arc and crossed the sky. Brother Nai, Linger will come back to find you. Hee, brother Nai is too gentle. This punch is so comfortable. Even though she flew into the air, K. Ruling's excited voice still came. This junior sister is good, but unfortunately she is a little stupid. Nai Chen sighed helplessly and continued to look around. Object, Lingzhu. Spiritual energy, relatively pure. Ability to comprehend, to carry the truth with writing. Method of comprehension, observe quietly for 180 days, observe the deliciousness and freshness. Comprehension success rate, 70%. Object, female disciple's underwear. Spiritual energy, a trace. Ability to comprehend, the way of perversion. Method of comprehension. Comprehension success rate, 90%. What the hell is this? Noticing the underwear hanging out in the courtyard next door, Nai Chen quickly turned his eyes away. If I succeed in this realization by accident, I'm afraid I won't be killed on the spot. I didn't expect that although the realization of the true body sounds good, it is always in danger. I heard that Mount Ime seems to be planning to hold a couple's sweet talk event recently. How about it? Do you want to go? Mount Ime? But I remember that Mount Ime is deeply influenced by the Empress and firmly opposes Taoist couples. I do want to go, but the problem is that I don't have a Taoist couple. Will I be treated like a dog and abused there? Don't say it, I'm already jealous, woo. Ding, system prompt. If you participate in the couple's sweet talk event with the Empress, you will have a chance to realize the mysterious realization of the Tao. At this moment, the system prompt sounded suddenly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 140. Although it's sour, I really want to go and see it. Actually, I want to, too. It doesn't matter if I'm treated like a dog. Maybe, I might even find a handsome guy there. But the Empress shouldn't know about this couple suites meeting, right? Of course she doesn't know, and I must not let the Empress know. Otherwise, I'm afraid. I know. After all, the Empress is also single, and has been single for more than 600 years. I'm afraid she can't bear to see this scene. SHH, keep your voice down. If the Empress hears you, you might lose your life. The two female disciples looked around mysteriously. After confirming that there was no one, they were very excited and planned to leave Tianyun Hall on the pretext of completing the mission. But they didn't know that Nai Chen had already heard it clearly. There is a great chance of understanding the mysterious enlightenment, and you can also take the opportunity to go on a date with your wife. How could he let go of such a great opportunity? Nai Chen immediately came to Tianyun Hall. In the past, Tianyun Hall has always had powerful guards guarding both sides. However, since he came to Tianyun Palace, these guards have been arranged far away from the palace. In the huge Tianyun Palace, the clouds are misty and the air is cold. Only Chu Qingyu sits on the throne in a cold and aloof manner. But as Nai Chen walked in, Chu Qingyu's originally icy and cold expression soon changed slightly inadvertently. Wife, didn't you miss me? In an instant, Chu Qingyu's original attempt to act cold was completely overwhelmed. Wife, you really do miss me. Noticing Chu Qingyu's evasive gaze, Nai Chen immediately smiled and moved forward. Humph, this emperor is not interested in missing you. This time, Chu Qingyu didn't even hide the happy smile on the corner of her mouth. Noticing this smile, Nai Chen understood instantly in his heart. So, he pretended to be sad and said, "Didn't you just praise me yesterday for being able to keep your mind clear when facing the Saint of Flowers? I didn't expect that you didn't miss me at all after I left for so long. It's really heartbreaking. My heart hurts so much that I can't sleep all night." No, that's not what I meant. What I meant was... Noticing Nai Chen's painful expression, Chu Qingyu suddenly looked a little flustered, and reflected on whether she had said too much. A hint of anxiety appeared on her face, and she hurriedly wanted to explain. "Don't think too much. In fact, it's not that I didn't miss you, it's just..." But just halfway through, Chu Qingyu raised her head and suddenly noticed Nai Chen's almost uncontrollable smile. You dare to lie to me." Thinking of her embarrassing expression just now, Chu Qingyu was so ashamed and angry that she wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. "Don't run away, you dare to lie to me, you must give me an explanation today." "Haha, don't be angry, my wife, I was just joking, I really didn't mean to tease you." "I don't care." "Ah, murder, the Empress murdered her husband." Inside the hall, two figures flashed very quickly, chasing each other. Nai Chen laughed so hard that he couldn't breathe, and performed the Qin Wang's pillar walk around the pillars of the hall. Unfortunately, although the Qin Wang's pillar walk was extremely agile, he couldn't escape Chu Qingyu's pursuit at all. Soon, Nai Chen was caught and dragged behind the screen. Nai Chen still couldn't help laughing, looking at Chu Qingyu, who raised her palm and asked, "My wife, I am familiar with this method, are you going to spank me?" "It doesn't matter, my husband's butt is resistant to beating, you can hit it hard." "You." Chu Qingyu's hand, which was halfway extended, paused. She did spank the butts of the Saint of Flowers and Shen Kongshuang. Still not through pants. But men's. "Humph, forget it this time, I'll let you go for now." Biting her silver teeth, Chu Qingyu finally retracted her palm. "Wife, you really still can't bear to hit me." Nai Chen smiled and moved forward. "It's not that I can't bear to hit you." Chu Qingyu's voice gradually became smaller, and she snorted proudly. The reason why this emperor spared you once is that I think your performance in the Forbidden Land is indeed good. And the surrender of the Holy Land of Bones also has a lot of credit from you. So this emperor. In this case, wife, can you promise me one thing? Nai-Chen seized the opportunity and moved forward. What is it? Noticing Nai-Chen's face approaching and a subtle smile on the corner of his mouth, Chu Qingyu's pretty face suddenly blushed, and her arms protected her chest. That thing is absolutely not allowed. Tisk tisk, wife, your current thoughts? Nai-Chen also noticed it recently. Although the empress seems aloof, she not only knows how to drive, but also has recent thoughts. I haven't said anything yet. What on earth is going on in the empress's smart mind? Well, I mean, I want to go to the Taoist couples candy-giving conference held in Mount Imei with you, my wife. Nai-Chen coughed twice before speaking. Huh? So, you want to say this? Chu Qingyu was stunned for a moment. Nai-Chen, then what did you think I said just now, my wife? No, I didn't think of anything. As if she wanted to cover up, Chu Qingyu answered very loudly. However, the trace of red on her temples betrayed her. Nai-Chen smiled without saying anything, and did not expose her. After a long while of calm, Chu Qingyu finally recovered after taking a few deep breaths. She asked in confusion. Taoist couples sweets party? What is this? Why haven't I heard of it before? Nai-Chen, hey, young people nowadays can't think of any ideas. I just found out about it. Although it is called a sweets party, it is probably a dog abuse party. Then do you still want to go? Nai-Chen smiled subtly. What's the matter? After all, I'm not single. Wife, do you think there are still people who abuse dogs and can abuse me? Thinking of this Taoist couples sweets party, Chu Qingyu seemed to have a spectacular scene of couples in her mind. All along, every time she made an appointment with Nai-Chen, she had to be cautious and pay attention to the eyes around her. But if she was there, she seemed to be able to blend in completely without any sense of disobedience. More importantly, Chu Qingyu finally reacted. Nai-Chen went around the bush to find me to attend the meeting. Isn't that the same as going on a date? Date? I don't know what kind of sweets meeting is, but if you really want to go, I can consider going with you. Chu Qingyu whispered softly, pretending to be reluctant. Then it's settled, my wife, don't worry, I don't believe I can lose to anyone in terms of dog abuse. Nai-Chen immediately laughed. It seems that the empress is arrogant, but she is always the same in that she says she doesn't like others. Shock, the love letter was sent to the empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 141. After leaving Tianyun Palace, Nai-Chen was satisfied and planned to prepare the things needed for the date. But not far away, he suddenly saw the flower saint who walked out of Chu Qingyu's palace, clutching her buttocks and seemed to be in pain and weak. At this moment, even the charming cheeks looked a little pale, and the trembling lips seemed extremely weak and pitiful. What's wrong with the saint? Nai-Chen couldn't help being startled and asked curiously. What do you think? The flower saint took a small step in pain and stared at Nai-Chen resentfully. If Qingyu hadn't been a crazy husband protector who only stared at herself, how could she have been beaten so pitifully? Ha ha ha, I never thought that a saint would have this day. Nai-Chen burst out laughing and asked with a smile. But will the saint dare to seduce me like she did in the forbidden place in the future? Who said you dare not? The flower saintess pursed her lips lightly, unwilling to be outdone. Even though her butt was still aching, she still endured the pain, brushed her golden hair, and expressed a charming look. As long as you want me to charm you, you can do it anytime. Qingyu and I are different, even about that kind of thing. We laugh. Hiss. But just halfway through speaking, the Blossom Saint suddenly felt a substantive chill emanating from the Tianyun Palace. The cold was so biting, as if frozen by ice, that she was so frightened that she dared not move. Ahem, next time, I won't say anything this time. The Blossom Saint shuddered suddenly and looked towards the direction of the main hall with frightened eyes. That guy Kingu is simply a husband-protecting maniac. These are some of the records you want. If you take them first, I will withdraw them first. Throwing a scroll to Nai-chan, the Flower Saint looked frightened and fled away in despair. It's true that one thing brings down another thing. Nai-chan couldn't help but sigh. The Blossom Saint is charming, cunning, and extremely difficult to deal with, but in front of Chu Qingyu, she can only give in. However, this scroll. Nai-chan integrated his thoughts into the scroll, and a steady stream of information quickly poured into his mind. What was recorded in this scroll was exactly the information about the reincarnation of the underworld that he asked the Flower Saint to find. 9 netherworlds, reincarnation of life. This strange and mysterious underworld of reincarnation is exactly the realm that communicates with the legendary underworld. However, even though Lanchuan continent is a world of cultivation, so far, no one has been able to truly prove whether the underworld really exists and where the place of death is. Therefore, although the underworld of reincarnation is recorded, it is still mysterious and no one really knows about it. Even the information found by the Blossom Saint is only vague guesses and records, and its authenticity cannot be verified. According to this scroll, the underworld of reincarnation is the place that connects the present world with the underworld. On the road to death, all living beings will pass through the underworld of reincarnation. However, the underworld of reincarnation is not only extremely dangerous, but also filled with countless soul-eating ghosts. The Netherworld royal family in charge of the underworld has suffered devastating blows and is unable to fully control the underworld. There is death. Tens of thousands of creatures were used as food, and countless souls fell on the road to life. Only a few souls will choose to stay there, or go through the underworld to the underworld. The Netherworld royal family. Is that the girl wearing the crown? Nai-chan quickly thought of the princess who stood on the cliff and forged a bond with him with a sword. However, the records in the scroll stop there, and even the Flower Saint is unknown about the rest. This trip to the Holy Land of Bones was very fruitful, and the inheritance and treasures he obtained gave Nai-chan some more trump cards to deal with the 2 remaining emperors who had evil intentions in Tianyun Palace. In front of the sacred image of Empress Qingyu, the disciples of Tianyun Palace gathered here. Either practice or worship. Nai-chan came to this crowded place specifically to try out the second ability rewarded in the system gift package. Lingshan Pupil, Acupuncture Point. Open the spiritual pupils. As Nai-chan's left pupil shrank slightly, a golden light reflected out. Suddenly, all the disciples looked slightly different in his eyes. Under the Lingshan pupil, everyone's body is reflected with spots of light. Big or small, more or less, everyone has at least a few points of light on their body. These light spots correspond to the acupuncture points that are most characteristic of them. Everyone has various acupuncture points, but everyone's weaknesses are not the same. What can be seen under the light of the spiritual pupils is everyone's weakest acupuncture point. Brother Nai, what are you looking at? At this moment, Duan Muyang approached Nai-chan in a flattering manner. Although when he was heading to the Holy Land, he was overshadowed by Nai-chan riding a dragon, causing him to lose all face. But Duan Muyang would never let go of any opportunity to flatter him. After all, no matter how much he held a grudge, Nai-chan was still beyond his reach. Nai-chan looked at Duan Muyang, and his spiritual pupils found the 2 weakest acupuncture points on his body at a glance. One is on the right side of the Adam's apple of the neck, and the other is 3 inches below the armpit. The 2 acupuncture points are Honesty Point and Laughing Point. Nai-chan didn't hesitate and pointed directly with 2 fingers. Ha 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 ha, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Duan Muyang fell to the ground laughing wildly, his body rolling around crazily on the ground. In addition to laughing continuously, he also laughed wildly and pointed at Nai Chen. Nai Chen, ha ha ha. Don't think I'm really afraid of you, ha ha. The reason why I am trying to please you on the surface is not just a temporary measure. When the opportunity comes, I will take revenge on you sooner or later. Ha 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 ha, Nai Chen, just wait for me, ha ha ha. Wrong. Duan Wang laughed until his stomach twitched, and he hurriedly covered his mouth. Recalling what I just said, there was a bang in my head, and I hurriedly tried to explain. Senior brother Nai, what I just said was just nonsense, you must not take it seriously, ha ha ha. No, what I told is the truth, no, I am lying. Ha 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 ha. It looks like this kid is hopeless. Nai Chen shook his head, flew up, and directly used Duan Mu Yang as a ball and kicked it into the sky. I have to admit that the ability of this spiritual pupil is indeed very useful. A smile appeared on Nai Chen's lips and he looked at the disciples around him. Brother Nai, what do you want to do? Senior brother Nai doesn't want it? The nearby disciples suddenly realized something was wrong, but it was already too late. Nai Chen's figure flashed and turned into a shadow that could not be caught at all. Laughing point. Crying point. Cave of desire. Suddenly, there were screams one after another in front of the sacred elephant. The Queen's pleasure point. Give me some guidance again. Listening to the prompt from the system, Nai Chen was stunned for a moment.